Warning: the following episode of That Mental Ginger Show contains strong language and adult themes.
Alright, troops.
This episode of That Mental Ginger Show is recorded at Scuff Studios in Swanston Street, Glasgow. If you're looking to do podcasts, music, or any creative passions, these guys will have you covered. For more information, contact Scuff Studios at scuff.studios.gla@gmail.com or find them on Facebook or Instagram and drop them a message. Scuff Studios, to nurture your creative passions. Hello and welcome to That Mental Ginger Show with your host Andrew Durning, aka The Mental Ginger. Now, my three faithful followers, you do like to have a bit of the arts and a bit of the craziness. So we've had our comedians, we've had our actors, and now we're bringing it back to the rap scene. No, it's not the rapping bin man John Steele. We've went up a gear, and he freely admits that himself because he's this guy's number one fan. One of the best underground rappers to ever come out of Airdrie, the whole three of them. It is Danny Quinn, aka Wee D. Thank you so much for coming on, man. I'm actually a wee bit fucking starstruck.
Cheers for having me, man. But I'll say a disclosure to the camera. I'm no for Airdrie, I'm for Coatbridge. I just want to put that out there, man. I don't want to be associated. I live in Airdrie because it's cheaper and because I got lured by the bright lights. Airdrie.
Where were the fucking post lights? In fairness, I'm the reverse. I grew up in Airdrie, but moved to Coatbridge because the missus is free Bride, Straven way, and I was like, right, where's the compromise? Coatbridge. But my family grew up in Airdrie, and I was like the first one to grow. No, my family grew up in Coatbridge, and I was the first one to grow up in Airdrie.
Right.
So already I was the outsider.
I mean, Coatbridge is good, man. Like people move there for the time capsule, and that's about it.
I moved there because they had the walk-in Pizza Hut, and then they shut it down.
It's a Greg's now.
It's a Greg's. I'm raging.
There's like three Gregs, I think, in Coatbridge. So
I know that just shows you like they're on the bloody poverty line, right enough. So what I like to do with every guest is get them to tell us about their origin story, because if there's one thing we've all got in common, we've got an origins. So do you prefer Wee D or Danny?
Danny's fine, man.
Danny. So Danny, in your own time, tell my three faithful followers your origin story.
So I mean, when I was growing up, man, like in high school, I could never find that sound that was for me, man. And I really struggled with finding that genre of music that I really liked. And for a long time, it was sort of listening to Kerrang and trying different shit out, man. Then one day my mate said to me, he's like, I've got a ticket for Nas. I was like, right, what songs do they play? And he's like, nah, it's a rapper. And then I was like, right, cool. So I went down to the Carlin Academy and saw the show, saw him live. And it was my first sort of induction into hip hop, and I got to a point in the show where he was doing all these tracks and I'd never heard any. I'd heard maybe one or two of his songs, and he started freestyling off the top of the dome, and he was just referencing people in the crowd, like pointing to people's hats and stuff, and rapping about it. And I was just fucking mind blown, man. Like just such a great experience. So coming off the back of that, I was like so passionate about hip hop, but I wanted to be able to do it, I didn't want to just sit and listen to it. So I started trying to write and started out. It was a wee studio in the Wifflet in Coatbridge called Contact Studios.
Oh, yeah.
Went down there and laid down a couple of songs, and then I left school and I went to study audio engineering. And while I was in college, there was this other guy, and he was quite obviously, Mako, was into hip-hop, he dressed like it and that. So I went to him with what I'd recorded, and I said, listen to this, man, like I recorded this, and he's like, we should work together and do something like that. So yeah, I mean, those 3 years at college, just constantly using the studio facilities and trying to get, try to figure my sound out and all that, and it sounds a lot different to what I sound like now, but that really helped me venture off into doing battle raps and stuff like that, and over the past 15 years, man, it's just been just experimenting with it and trying new things and trying to see if you can convince people to listen to hip hop in a broad fucking Coatbridge accent, which is always experimental.
But it's one thing that I really like about the Scottish rap scene in particular is that we don't hide from our accents. And I noticed that when I started listening to as I call him, the rapping bin man. Well, I think he hates me for coming up with that name because it seems to have stuck with him better than like Kid Direct and all that stuff that he had at the start. But when he first started and he was trying to rap American, and he sent me it, and I said to him, like, mate, use your own accent.
Yeah.
Because you're talking about stuff that we relate to. Well, you can't talk about Scotland and sound like you're from Texas, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think that's the thing with hip hop. It's always been about, I mean, initially it was a social movement and it was a social tool to really speak about poverty in the Bronx and further across America, and it was very much the voice of the black culture. So it's always been about, social narration, and it's hard to give an element of social narration if you're talking about the things that are happening in your community, but you're doing it in an American accent. So there needs to be, you make that sacrifice. Obviously, there's going to be listeners that aren't attuned to it, but at the end of the day, man, if you can get the message across and if you can make impact even in your small community of Scotland or the UK, then I think it's worth it,
No, definitely. So how did you find it when you started out? What did you start out like trying to figure out, right, I need to ditch the American accent, or what would you say was your biggest kind of hurdles when you started out?
I never had an American accent, and the thing was that when I was round about that time when I was 14 and I went to see Nas and I got really into hip hop, my cousin was hanging about with this girl who was going out with another rapper, a guy for a group called Triple Cut, and it was my very first insight into Scottish people doing rap, and it was before I even thought about doing rap, I guess. So the moment I heard people doing rapping, from Scotland, they were doing it in a Scottish accent.
Yeah.
That said, man, like, I think a lot of the stuff that I was rapping about at the start was very much influenced by the people I liked, and I liked Onyx and Biggie and Tupac, but mostly Sticky Fingers and DMX and Exhibit. I just loved the gruffness of their voice. So I tried to sort of replicate that, and a lot of my older stuff, I can't even make out what I'm fucking saying on it, man. It just sounds ridiculous. So for me, the style sort of came through doing rap battles. In 2010, I got involved in that, and I really found a sort of niche of, because rap battles in themselves are just like slagging matches that you would have in a playground in high school or primary school,
But with a tune behind it.
No, they don't. It's completely a cappella. So the notion of a rap battle or the format is I get 1 minute, you get 1 minute. I've prepared rhymes about you, you've prepared rhymes about me, and we just need to engage with the audience, and I need to slag you and you need to slag me, and we do that for 3 rounds. And when I've done that, I found that I can speak really slow and be really punchline heavy and focus on humour, and be a lot better than most people, I would say.
Yeah. Well, obviously, like, because you're kind of the main underground rap influence that what I would say the quote unquote normies have heard, especially kind of our scene. But for those that maybe aren't initiated, tell us about like the Scottish underground rap scene, like what your take on it is, how you feel it's been represented, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's huge. It is huge. And I don't know if I'm necessarily the person that people think of, maybe for some people, and I'd be glad if they did, but you have people doing incredible things. So when I think back, I mean, hip hop's been going about in Scotland since the 80s, and you've got the likes of Steg G, who runs Power Cut Productions, who's in Freestyle Master. You've got Two Tone Committee back then in the 90s, and Big Div over in Paisley, who's a producer, and these guys have been doing it for decades. You have quite a lot of people now that are the likes of Loki, who released a book, and has had his own series on BBC and stuff like that. So you have this kind of culture almost penetrating into the mainstream media now, and it's getting a lot more recognition. I think stylistically, hip hop right now is trained to very, the culture of it's very trap heavy. It's a new brand of hip hop, and a lot of people are jumping on the back of that. But then you've got people that, like myself, I would describe as boom bap, where I'm very much influenced by 90s and 2000 hip hop, and not necessarily influenced by what hip hop sounds like today. So I would say overall, I know I'm off on a complete fucking tangent, but
right, this is what the show's about. We need the tangents, because then I have to pick the bits out and go, right, that's it. Spoiler alert for anybody that says just the Magic Spring lost now, but that's what I do.
No, Glasgow and Edinburgh have a lot of active, hip hop in these little communities, like Coatbridge and Motherwell, and you'll find a rapper anywhere really in Scotland, and it's only growing,
Yeah, the thing that I always loved about like hearing like the Scottish rap is when you heard like your hometown being put in the rap, even if it was something like the worst thing they could say about it, you'd be like, oh, that's where I'm from.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. What would you say is probably one of the, when you're starting out with your battles, is there any particular like rap or diss that you did that you thought, fuck, that was fire? That is something that's going to be like my thing to stick with.
I mean, I mind in 2013 there was a period where I done a rappers versus comedians during the Glasgow Comedy Festival, so they put rappers up against comedians in a rap battle. So I went up against Bruce Morton, which is great, and Bruce is a good pal of mine, man.
Yeah.
And actually helped me do comedy later on down the line. But in that week I had that, and then a few days later we were doing freestyle battles, and there was a rapper called Coolio that done Gangster's Paradise. He was judging it.
That's my fucking nostalgia trip right there.
Yeah, so we got to meet him actually.
I've still got the single. I've still got his single, man.
You know, see in that video, man, like of Gangster's Paradise, and he's over the table and he's hunched over, and he looks like massive and intimidating. And I met him, and he's the same height as me, man. He's like 5'4". He's tiny. Like
I still wouldn't mess with him, though, man. Nah. I'd get my arse kicked. In any way, says like freestyle rap battle, whatever. So he was judging it.
He was judging it. It was a freestyle competition. So what had happened was I was working for a charity at the time, and they'd found out that I was doing rap battles and hip hop, and they called me into the office, and I thought, here it is, I'm going to get fired, man, because it's the profanity in the language that I use, even through this, I swear quite fluently, but
they can't fire you for a hobby, man. Like, see, if that was the case, I would have a lot more strikes on my record.
Nah, I think with some of the material, this is quite, especially in rap battles, is quite edgy, man. So,
yeah, but anyway, isn't that what rap's about, though? Like, it's about like you go for the things that people can't say, and you say it, and that's what I've always loved about it.
It's very close to comedy that way, and I've found when I made that transition from doing rap to doing comedy, I found that I thought comedy would be a lot more open, and you could say things that, but you can't. It's for me, there was stuff that I got off with saying in hip hop that I would never get off with saying in comedy.
So who won the battle?
Big Bruce won it. It was which is fine. Like it's still on YouTube, man. Like, but I think it was close. I went with the I really went with the approach of saying that he looks like Mr. Burns for The Simpsons, which, and that he's bald and saves a lot of money in shampoo, and that was pretty much the two approaches I had.
Yeah.
But and then further in that week, so I had 3 rap battles in that week, and I went up against. There used to be a battle league in Scotland called Badmouth Battles, which was a big Scotland sort of ran by a rapper called Gasp, and
I've heard the Gasp actually. It was Steely that introduced me to him, like telling about his 4-letter album.
Aye.
The Catch You Next Tuesday album.
Yeah, he's done well, man.
So we had to censor that when I did the first round in the series, and I was like, yeah, my mum listens to this. I've got to be. We can't drop that bomb right there. So that's why I've said Catch You Next Tuesday.
Yeah,
this stuff's really good, man.
Yeah, Gasp again has been at it for decades, man. He's like, and I think he's sort of
plug my name and see if you can get him on the show, man. Like, come on, he's doing a freestyle battle against each other. That would be cool.
Oh, battle Gasp already, man. Like, so, but I ended up that during that week I battled a guy for London called Tongue Twister, and that, back to your original point, is one of my favourite battles because it was written in 2 days, and because I was just so over. I remember phoning my mate, another rapper, and I was like, I'm going to lose this in front of everyone, and I won it quite convincingly, I felt.
Nice.
Which I was just buzzing for it, man. So I would say that was one of my favourite ones.
Nice one. Well, and you mentioned that you work for like the charities and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, the recent one I've seen that you're working with the Scottish Association of Mental Health.
Yeah.
Which me and my fellow Scuff Studios people, for my Ouija Warriors, we recorded a song to raise money for it.
Oh, nice.
We raised £700.
Amazing.
Which was good. So was it like being on the other side of the fence, like actually working for them?
I mean, they're a great organisation, I've always, and they're very innovative in the way that they support people. Been kind of working on and off with them for the past year and a half or so. But, without a doubt, what they're all about is championing mental health support and getting people to identify that, you know, having a mental health condition is not only prevalent, but you know, it's not a life sentence. You can still have a positive sense of well-being. If you have a diagnosis, you can still, you know, do things like this. You can still be involved in the creative arts, and the creative arts in themselves are such a great tool for mental health and exploring that. And as a recovery toolkit, I think hip hop and the creative arts in general is great, man.
Definitely, but because when I took not well, as you know, a guy in my work said that I should have been in Ward 24, the psych ward,
Right.
Because he said like you're not well, you need to be in the loony bin, and I was like, fuck you, man. I'm gonna go in and do what I want to do, and get myself back, get myself well, and doing this type of stuff has really helped with that.
Yeah.
Do you find that as well? Like when you're doing it like that, it kind of frees up some of that, maybe the pent up frustration or like the anger that maybe you've got, and you're like, right, this is my way of channeling this in a healthy way.
Yeah. So totally, and what I love about hip hop is that you can talk about a time in your life. I could go back and listen to albums for 2014 and go, I remember how I was feeling at that time because I'm talking about what's going on and stuff like that. But in 2017, I was going through a bit of a hard time, and I was working with Steg G and Power Cup Productions, and we created an album that is all along mental health, and it's very heavily storyboarded. So the album's called What is Happiness, and it's really about men's mental health, and what it takes you from is this character that doesn't have mental health issues, and then sort of the tracks sort of indicate the influences and triggers. So, you know, parental alienation, you know, increased substance use, relationship breakdown. And it really takes this person through the course of the album, through that sort of journey of mental health and the severity of it. But I think that for me is it's on Spotify. So check it out for the listeners. But that ended up getting nominated for Album of the Year with Infinitime Music Awards, which was great.
Yeah, that does sound absolutely fantastic, and especially in 2017 and highlighting men's mental health. It takes a lot of balls to do that, especially at that point, because mental health we were still kind of on the cusp. We weren't starting to do things like these type of awareness things. So massive credit to you for doing that. And yeah, definitely check it out, guys. I have checked it out, but I didn't want to blow smoke up his arse. You know what I mean? We get enough people like that. But you're a fucking amazing artist, man. And some of the stuff that you've recently brought out in 2021. So your first song with Jay Murray.
Aye.
Lightweight.
Yep.
And I was very privileged to be able to get the exclusive to watch it. So Steely. And let me do a wee review about it, and the review was Underground Rises Up, and I stick by that because it was so fucking good, man.
Cheers, man.
Your spits were brilliant, and for spoiler alert for it, but Jay drops a certain line about a wrestler that, let's say, shouldn't be mentioned, and I just remember rolling, laughing, and being like, man, he could not say that, but he did, and I'm so glad he did. It just worked out so well. So how did that collaboration come about?
So I've known Jay since about 2007, and at that time in 2007 there was a lot of different MCs in Coatbridge and Airdrie. There was the likes of Cascade and MCX and Mako, who's one of my best mates, and there was Jay. And when I started, you know, we were all working together, and then I sort of took off on my own tangent through doing the battles, and those guys kind of life got in the way. So Jay hit me up, I think either this year or the end of last year. He was like, I really want to be working on something with you. And I get that a lot from people, and you know, the way it usually goes is they'll come round to my house or I'll go to theirs and we'll meet up in a studio and we'll write something and then we'll never do anything about it. So for me, being creative, I kind of need to know that there's a recording date. So I said, that's fine, we'll book a studio date. This is a date, turn up and have 2 verses, I'll have 2 verses, and we'll work around it. So we done that, and I think Lightweight was probably one of the first ones that we recorded. And that was kind of the hook for it and all that. The chorus was just sort of, we turned up and we didn't have a chorus and we wrote it in the spot and all that.
Yeah.
So since then it's been, that's the way it's been with Jay. It's just been, right, this is the date, let's turn up and have a couple of verses. And it's been good. I've really liked working with him because I didn't know what he could do when I started out working with him. I kind of knew what he sounded like back in 2007, but his punchlines and his flows they're off the chart, man. He's like one of the best rappers I've ever worked with, man.
Yeah, I mean, the song itself was absolute fire, and I really mean it, man. It was fantastic, and I couldn't help but have a slight like get it round you for like Steely, especially because he's followed your career for dot. He's a massive fan of yours, and I was like, yeah, I'm getting a wee exclusive in his track. You're gonna be so pissed.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I didn't spoil it for him, obviously, because when you sent me, it was like, don't release it, and obviously, I know from creative side, that's basically just someone taking a shine in your kettle. You don't do it.
Yeah, Steely's always turned up to album launches and that.
Yeah.
He used to run a open mic night down at Airdrie and stuff like that. So he's just a great guy, man. You know
Steely always told me about the open mic nights. I never got round to them at that point because I still kind of wasn't well at that point.
Aye.
But things kind of went a bit better from then. And he would always film them anyway, and I'd get to see them, and it was so good to see. Like, you guys just have such a quick wit about yous, and you're able to like come up with things kind of like on the dime, and just drop it, and you're like, wow, I could not think of that. It would take me about like 3 days, like probably 4 cans of Red Bull, and maybe a shot of vodka to even get one line that would go, aye, that's no bad.
I think it's always interesting. We've done a lot of Battle of the Bands competitions and that, and you turn up and guys are coming in with guitars and drum kits and parts of drum kits and stuff like that, and we're turning up with a USB stick like, just give us 5 minutes before we need to go and get the microphone levels. Always feels a bit of a cop out. In 2006 or something, we ended up coming second in this Battle of the Bands competition. Made some money out of it, but it went on for months. There was like different heats and stuff like that. And we got into a good few. I mean, we were young at the time. I was about 17, 18, but a lot of the bands didn't like a hip hop outfit. There was 4 years at the time going to, the final of a Battle of the Bands and winning money out of it. So always feels a bit of a cop out, man. I guess you overlook what it is that you do, man, and you take it a bit for granted because.
But in fairness, you would have the work that they've would be doing with their stuff. You've done that beforehand. You've laid down your beats, you've laced your tracks, and the flow, as P Diddy would say. You've got all that down. And you've still been practicing with it. You are bringing your own kit. It's just smaller than theirs, and in a way, they're probably jealous because they're like, I have to hump this feckin' drum kit around all the time, back of the car or the van, and get sorted. You just need to rock up with something, pull out your pocket, done. Right, let's go.
Yeah.
And it's probably a bit more like ignorance than anything else, because they think, oh, you're not a band, but you work damn hard, and I've got nothing but respect especially for hip hop artists, especially when I know there's no chance in hell I could do that.
I think overall it boils down to the fact that whether you're a guitarist or whether you're a rapper or what, you're a performer at the end of the day, and you're engaging people, man. And I just feel like, for me, the best part of doing music is performing, because, and John will probably tell you this, I usually like to, if I've got a 40-minute set, I'll spend fucking 35 minutes of it talking to the audience and telling jokes and talking shite about somebody's hat. But I just love doing that, do you know what I mean? Like, I don't like the worst shows that I hate, and rappers are really guilty of this, you got a 20-minute set, and I'll go, maybe do 10 tunes in that time, and it's just back to back to back to back tunes. And I feel like when you're performing, you really need to engage the audience, and it's not enough just to throw music at them, you know what I mean?
Definitely. So that's the difference between like a musician and a performer. Musicians are like, get it, do it, go. The performers are like, let's engage with the crowd, and that's why everyone so focuses on the singer in a band.
Yeah,
because they're the ones that have got to keep that audience engaged.
Yeah,
and that's why I was shit at singing, because I couldn't do that. Right. So, but you're also a family man as well.
Yeah.
So, how many kids you got again? Two. How old are they?
11 and 8, so they're getting to that stage now. Like, I was picked my daughter up, she's in P7 for school the other day, and these 2 wee guys come out and they're like, alright, Weedy, go do a rap, Weedy, what are you doing, Weedy? I was like, fucking wee dicks, man.
Well, I was going to ask you like how you kind of balance that with, like, because they're the age your kids are, they will start getting that kind of recognition, but you've just answered that question for me.
Yeah, they know what I do, and and I'll sit and I'll play songs in the car of mine if I need to listen to something, and I kind of want them to be to see that side of me, because I didn't grow up in a musical household at all, and it kind of took. I always thought, I'm not sporty, I'm not musical, and then I got into both sports and music of my own accord, and like loved them both. Do you know what I mean? So
what was your sport?
Baseball.
Baseball. Oh
Yeah,
man.
Yeah, so.
What? I'm starting to really kind of be jealous of you because musicians aren't meant to be also good at being fucking athletes, man. What, man? That's the
Well,
whole.
you don't need to be very good at baseball.
That's the whole point. What, I do the music because I'm shit at everything. What, but I'm good at kind of talking absolute bollocks. What,
I mean, yeah, the thing is, I pick a sport that nobody's really interested in Scotland, and I pick a genre that not a lot of people do, and that's the secret. Set yourself the bar low, man.
yeah,
Like,
but you're good at. You are really good at both. And I've seen what some of your baseball videos and that as well. What kicking about? What you're no bad. You got to give yourself a wee bit of credit for that.
Oh no, I love it, man. Like I got into it when I was like 14, and my granda used to play it when he was wee, and he had this huge 1957 Adirondack wooden bat, and it just used to sit in the living room, and I kind of assumed for the longest time it was for wrapping around people's heads, but it was
In fairness,
actually
that's why my dad had a bat.
Aye. And I just started playing it, and I got really interested in American sports are always more intricate than ours are fast paced, football and rugby and that.
Yeah, I like the NFL. In fairness, that's mine.
Aye,
Yeah,
I could never get into it, but no, I've played baseball. Through the season and stuff like that, so it's cool.
So we're coming up on time. So what I'll do is give yourself as much plug-in as you can. Where can our audience find you? What's coming up? The floor is yours, my friend.
Awesome. So Spotify definitely, or Facebook, Twitter, and all that, man. I can't remember the tags, but hit Spotify because that's where the music is essentially. In terms of what's coming up, we're going to be, myself and Rafe are releasing a collaborative project called Channel Surfing, and it's just it's a psychedelic fuck mess of loads of different concepts all rolled into the one and filtered into vocals. So that'll be out probably come the springtime, man. So
Nice.
Just keep an eye on the socials and check the video out. Check out Lightweight on YouTube.
Yeah, definitely. You've got to check him out. Because I don't both smoke up people's artists for the sake of it. He's a brilliant guy, brilliant rapper. So yeah, I'm getting more and more jealous of him as the time goes on. So I'll wrap up with a final question that I ask all my guests that come on the show. And it'll be especially relevant to you since you work for a mental health charity.
Right.
So if you could give advice to one person that is maybe listening to this right now and struggling with mental health issues, what would that piece of advice be and why?
My advice would be to talk about it with someone. There's lots of good resources out there, the likes of Samaritans and stuff that's listening services, or talk to your friends about it, man. I just think that once we start to vocalise and we can be honest and open up and engage that conversation, then we can sort of address the stigma, and it's not we can't do that unless we have the conversation. So a lot of people they undermine how valuable talking about it is. So don't go through that journey alone is what I would say. Reach out and speak to someone.
Definitely, mate. I'm really, really glad that you came on today. Thank you so much.
Cheers for having me, man.
So now we come to Airdrie's latest favourite segment, Ask Andrew Anything. Now, for the uninitiated, this is when, after me grilling the guests for, how long are we on, Ross?
26, 27, I don't know.
26, 27 minutes, just because I don't have the clock up this time. Where the guest gets to ask me anything, and it can be something as mundane as, do you like Evian water? Or it could be something really ridiculous like, who won a fight between a badger and a koala? So, Danny, do you have a question for me, my friend?
Yeah, what's your most embarrassing experience ever?
Oh, there's been so fucking many. Due to threat from censors at this episode being removed, That Mental Ginger Show has had to withdraw the Ask Andrew Anything segment of this episode.
Until next time, take care, stay safe. Bye-bye.